for spine-chilling backwoods stories revealed. Terrifying encounters with sinister forces await. The sun sank low behind the twisted treeline of Chagrin Falls, Ohio, casting an unsettling shadow over Sarah Evans' backyard. As she fired up the grill for a late-night barbecue, the usual chirping of crickets and soft rustling of leaves fell into an oppressive silence. She felt a chill creeping down her spine, a dark whisper curling around her heart. Flickering shadows danced where the trees stood gnarled and sinister, propelling an unknown terror deep inside her gut. "Just the woods," she muttered, clenching her fists around the grill handles as if they de-anchor her to reality. But her thoughts raced back to the uneasy folklore the locals spun, the stories of people disappearing without a trace, the hushed tones when the Wilsons were mentioned next door, their friendly smiles hiding something dark and twisted. How well did she really know her neighbors? The evening air felt thick, almost suffocating, as unease seeped into her bones. "Tom, you on your way?" she called out, her voice quivering in the stillness. Hours slipped by without a word, stretching her nerves raw. Something was off. As the sun vanished completely, she felt the weight of the darkness pressing down. With her heart pounding, she stepped into the night, her breath hitching at the palpable silence. At the gas station, the attendant barely met her eyes. "Tom, didn't he make it?" he whispered, and the walls around her crumbled. Panic surged through her. How could he just vanish? When she returned home, her children were tucked in, blissfully unaware of the creeping dread wrapping around her heart like a vice. Desperate to shield them, she tried to swallow her fear when the wooden door creaked open. The Wilsons, smiles replaced by something tight-lipped and tense, stood at the edge of their yard. "You know the laws of the woods," one muttered, their eyes gleaming with an unnatural light, leaving an icy trail of dread sweeping over her. Before Sarah could find her voice, a blood-chilling scream shattered the night air. It was her only tether to reality. Severed. The familiar neighborhood morphed, revealing their collective indifference as the Wilsons faded back into the shadows, sharing whispers that stirred the choking fear coiling within her. She had to uncover the truth. As she tore through abandoned buildings, despair lacing her every move, she stumbled upon unsettling remnants of the town's dark history. Symbols carved into the wood echoed the whispers of the past. It felt like the trees themselves were alive, sentinels holding onto rhythms of dark rituals, demanding sacrifices shaded in blood. The roots of evil intertwined, and panic seized her chest as the dots began to connect. Just as she pieced together the sinister truth behind the Wilsons, shadows stirred, forming a shape she had come to fear. But before she could scream, the reality of it all smashed into her, shrouding her trembling heart in dread. The community she once cherished bared its teeth, cloaked in murderous intent. This was not just about finding Tom anymore. It was about surviving the night. Chills crawled up her spine as a whisper caught her ear. "Not everyone wants you to survive." Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The trees leaned in closer as the shadows deepened. Time stretched thin, and she steeled herself to confront what lurked ahead. Was this the beginning of the end? Or could she unearth the truth before it consumed her whole? She had to know, would she be next? The wind howled through the vacant streets, a biting reminder of the isolation surrounding Sarah. She had to move. Whatever was out there, whatever had taken Tom, was far closer than she could bear to acknowledge. Heart racing, she weaved through the shadows, each step accompanied by imagined footsteps echoing her own. The Wilsons watched from the edge of their yard, mere silhouettes draped in darkness. Their eyes glinted like twin wolves in the night. "You can't run from your fate," one called out softly, their voice smooth yet laced with a chilling edge. Sarah quickened her pace, fear propelling her forward as she slipped into the dense embrace of the woods. Branches clawed at her arms as she stumbled deeper, gasping for breaths that sliced through the frigid air. The stories about the woods flooded her mind, dark rituals whispered by firelight, prowling shapes lurking just beyond the trees. Had they really taken Tom? Were they hunting her now? An uneasy quiet fell, closing in like a noose around her neck. She froze, glancing back. The deepening shadows bled together, sculpting grotesque figures that seemed poised to pounce. Her thoughts spiraled. What if the woods themselves were against her? What if the town she trusted had become a breeding ground for nightmares? Suddenly, a guttural growl broke the stillness, vibrating through her bones. Panic surged as she darted ahead, legs propelling her blindly. Each footfall echoed, but she heard something else, voices whispering her name. A sickening dread sank in as distorted laughs echoed behind her, cutting through the veil of night. They were toying with her. "Please, I just need to get home," she shouted into the abyss, desperation lacing her words. No answer came, only the increasing sounds of movement through the underbrush. They were closing in. Just as all hope felt lost, a narrow path suddenly appeared, barely visible beneath twisted roots and gnarled vines, illuminating a faint light at the end. She didn't think. She ran. The chill of the night pressed harder against her skin, the warnings of the woods ringing louder in her ears. But she had no choice, fear twisted in her gut, urging her on. Once she reached the light, her heart sank. The remnants of a campsite lay scattered before her, broken chairs, a fire pit with charred remains, and something more sinister. Torn clothing, stained with an unmistakable dark hue, littered the ground like forgotten tokens of the lost. A glance into the surrounding trees revealed more symbols carved deeply into the bark. Tangled, foreboding shapes that felt almost alive. She stepped back, her breaths quickening. What had she stumbled upon? The darkness whispered louder, wrapping around her like a shroud as the laughter returned, echoing from both directions now. "You found us," a voice chirped joyfully. It was all too cheerful amid the dread. "We've been waiting then." A flash of light illuminated the clearing, and she shielded her eyes, stumbling backward. There, silhouetted against the brilliant glow, stood several figures, their faces obscured. "Sarah, come join us." They beckoned with outstretched hands. Confusion mixed with fear. Was this a path to salvation or doom? Every instinct screamed at her to run, yet something held her, anchoring her in place. The air crackled with anticipation as the figures stepped closer, illuminating grim smiles and the shadows of spacious eyes. But through the flickering light, she noticed something even darker, something moving behind them, something that craved blood. "Get out," her mind ordered. "Run." The figures laughed, a chorus of madness intertwined with the chilling reality of her situation. In that moment between understanding and horror, she realized she might not make it back home. Something primal shrieked within her, and before she could act, everything shifted again, the world tilting, drenching her in terror. As she caught a glimpse of the woods' true intention, their insatiable hunger for her, what had she unleashed? The final thoughts raced through her mind as the shadows gathered for the imminent feast. Who would be next? The figures drew closer, their laughter stretching like a taunt through the air. Shadows flickered and danced, coiling around Sarah as if the darkness itself was alive. Panic surged, a tidal wave of dread that threatened to drag her under. She couldn't stand still. Something primal pushed her toward the dense trees behind her, where she could feel the heavy breathing of the woods, alive and hungry. "Run." The word echoed in her mind, tearing through the laughter. She turned, stumbling back the way she came, the ground uneven beneath her feet. Twisted roots snagged at her shoes, pulling her down before she could regain her balance. Thick underbrush clawed at her arms, but she pressed on, adrenaline flooding her veins. The whispers floated through the air, seductive and sinister. "Come play with us, Sarah." The chorus was growing, coming from all directions. The woods were favoring their twisted children over her, a living nightmare hungry for her despair. "What do they want?" She panted, the answer eluding her, just like the way home. The light she had seen faded, devoured by the consuming darkness. She was left with only dread and question: who were these figures, and what had happened to Tom? Then the growl returned, low and reverberating, more pronounced this time. She felt its growl swell as if it came from the very heart of the woods. Her heart raced unsteadily. Each beat thundered in her ears, drowning the whispers that wrapped around her. Fear twisted into desperation. There! A clearing! She spotted a thin shaft of light, stark against the encroaching darkness, cutting through the veil like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. She pushed past branches that scratched her skin, tears mingling with the dirt and fear on her cheeks. Just as she reached the edge of the clearing, a hand shot out like a viper from the shadows, grabbing her wrist with an iron grip. She screamed, twisting and pulling, but couldn't break free. "Stay with us," the figure hissed, their face finally coming into view. The eyes, those deep, black holes, sucked the warmth from the air, leaving only an icy chill that slithered down her spine. There was something familiar yet terrifying about them, a patchwork of the lost souls that once roamed these woods, never to be found. "Let me go," she shouted, the words tearing from her throat, raw and desperate. The grip tightened, pulling her into the light with a sickening glee. More figures surrounded her now, their faces flickering in and out of sight, transforming into something monstrous as they danced just beyond the edges of sanity. "Join us," they chorused, reaching out with fingers that stretched impossibly long, their smiles stretching into grotesque grins. Through the cacophony, Sarah glimpsed shadows swirling around the edges, something monstrous, waiting beyond the circle of light, its intentions clear and deadly. The promise of death hovered thick in the air, choking away thoughts of escape. With a surge of strength stemming from raw terror, she wrenched free, breaking into a sprint that propelled her deeper into the woods. The inhuman howls caught up with her, reverberating in the trees. A nightmarish shape burst forth from the shadows, a thing of claws and teeth that reflected the sick glow of the blood-red moon hanging overhead. Desperation fueled her flight. She plunged into the woods, branches tearing at her clothes and the biting air wrapping itself around her throat. Was this all real? Had she crossed into another realm where nightmares stalked the living? For every step, it felt like the laughter grew louder, and the woods closed in on her, tightening their grip. "Where's the exit? Where are you, Tom?" she gasped, each breath a struggle, her lungs burning. Then came a voice, one she recognized too well, echoing through the chaos, twisted but familiar. "Sarah, I'm here with you." The dread coiled tighter, a noose ready to snap. And just as she thought she could escape into the hollow ground ahead, she stumbled. With the ground shifting beneath her feet, she fell, spiraling into darkness, into the waiting arms of shadowy figures. Was Tom really here? Her last thought spiraled into a void of uncertainty as the laughter turned into piercing shrieks. What had she awakened in the woods? Darkness enveloped Sarah as she fell, the sudden plunge into the abyss pulling her deeper into a realm of horror. The laughter faded, replaced by an oppressive silence that weighed on her chest like lead. She landed hard on a brittle patch of leaves, the sound echoing in the void, awakening something sinister lurking beneath the surface. Disoriented, she scrambled to her feet, her pulse racing. Shadows loomed around her, undulating like smoke, thickening the air with a suffocating dread. "Tom!" Her voice trembled, swallowed by the dark. The woods around her remained eerily silent, the previous cacophony silenced, leaving only the hollow sound of her breath. She caught a glimpse of a figure at the edge of her vision. Heart pounding, she turned her head, but nothing was there, only the blurred canvas of gloom shifting behind the trees. It felt like the woods were watching, holding its breath, waiting for her next move. Fear twisted her stomach, but there was no choice. She had to move. The memory of Tom's voice reverberated in her mind, an echo of hope in a world stripped of light. "Where are you?" she whispered, her words barely above a breath. "Answer me." The last sound hung heavy in the air, a challenge to whatever hunted her. With newfound determination, she pushed forward. The ground shifted underfoot, each step feeling like she was walking on the spine of the forest itself. It felt alive, pulsing, as if the roots were the veins pumping fear into the very atmosphere that surrounded her. Then came the growl again, deeper and more menacing than before. It had a pattern, almost rhythmic, thrumming like a heartbeat in the silence. Sarah's heart raced in sync, a counterpoint to the primal sound. She had no idea what creature lay in wait, but she didn't need to see it. Instinct warned her that danger was near. Branches scratched at her arms as she navigated through the oppressive underbrush, each step a desperate bid for survival. Suddenly, she stumbled into another small clearing, one that radiated an unsettling glow. The source of the light flickered erratically, revealing the wretched remnants of what once was a campfire, cold and gray, surrounded by crooked chairs that seemed too large and too warped. Warily, she approached, the cold light illuminating what looked like old, tattered remnants of a picnic blanket. Scattered in disarray were broken toys, and her stomach lurched as something glinted from the shadows, a rusted pocket knife stained with dark, congealed patches, dried long ago yet fresh enough in its implication. Before she could investigate further, a chilling breeze swept through the clearing, swirling around her like a cacophony of whispers. Join us," floated through the air, the same sinister chant that had called her before. The temperature dropped, and she could see her breath, small clouds escaping her lips, each a desperate call to life in the suffocating stillness. "Leave me alone." Panic erupted, her voice cracking as she turned to flee. But as she dashed back into the dense shadows, the ground beneath her buckled again. A thick mist began to rise, wrapping around her ankles, pulling at her like 1,000 fingers made of smoke and despair. She fought against the rising fog, but it was relentless, drowning her senses in its vile grip. The whispers crescendoed, morphing into shrill laughter that bit at the edges of her mind. "You can't go back," they taunted. "You belong to us now." Just when she thought she had lost all hope, the mist parted momentarily, revealing a shadowed figure standing at the edge of the clearing, lit only by an eerie moonlight. It stood unnaturally still, a silhouette against the fog, its shape too familiar yet too far removed. "Tom?" she whispered, a mix of hope and dread spiraling in her chest. But as she stepped closer, the figure shifted, its face blurring into an amalgamation of horrors, a mirror reflecting every nightmare she had ever known. She froze, a scream caught in her throat, realization hitting her like a hammer. It wasn't Tom at all, at least not anymore. As the mist thickened, she turned to flee, but it was too late. The shadows surged forward, and the laughter rose to a deafening crescendo. "Now you're one of us," as she felt the pull of the darkness close in once more. A single thought screamed in her mind: could she ever escape this nightmare? Or was she destined to join the ranks of the lost? What truly awaited her in the depths of the woods? The cold tendrils of mist twisted tighter around Sarah, squeezing the breath from her lungs. The once faint echoes of laughter now felt like claws scraping against her sanity. She bolted into the forest, limbs thrashing against branches that clawed at her skin, but the pain was a welcome distraction from the horror pursuing her. "Tom!" she yelled again, desperation bursting through her lips. No response, just the mocking whispers blooming behind her, weaving through the fog like an invisible web. Join us," they surrounded her, wrapping around her mind, suffocating any remnants of hope. Gritting her teeth, Sarah plunged deeper into the heart of the woods. Each step grew more treacherous, the ground changing beneath her feet. For every slippery patch she navigated, another seemed to pull her down, competing forces dragging at her sanity and strength. Then, in a flicker of the moonlight, she spied a path less obscured by darkness. A narrow trail snaked through the trees, lit by fleeting glimmers of ghostly light. Without a second thought, she raced toward it, her heart pounding like a war drum. The deeper she went, the thicker the shadows became, and suddenly the trail split into 3 diverging roads. A chill gripped her spine. What if each way led to different horrors? But time was running out, the whispers swelling into a cacophony that threatened to drown her reason. She hesitated, glancing back to the darkness, chasing the sound of menacing laughter, feeling their presence breathing down her neck. With a surge of instinct, She chose the path that seemed to shimmer, sprinting until the air grew heavier, thick with tension and unnameable dread. As she pressed on, familiar sounds wafted through the abyss. Playful whispers, a childish giggle, and the clinking of toys. The memories flashed before her: Tom and her childhood, laughter in the backyard, the innocence of sunny days. Sarah, a voice cooed, alluring yet ominous, echoing through the trees. "Stay away," she screamed, forcing herself to move faster. Yet despite her haste, the forest seemed alive, its roots slithering like snakes, grasping at her ankles, trying to pull her back into its dark embrace. Just then, the path widened, revealing a clearing filled with glowing lanterns that flickered like trapped souls. There were old swings creaking under the weight of a silence so profound it pierced her ears. And lying in the center, a makeshift altar, an altar of memories adorned with broken dolls and fallen leaves, bloodied yet pristine. "What is this?" she whispered, trembling as her heart sank. Pale faces emerged from the shadows, the lost children of the woods, their eyes hollow, their mouths twisted into maniacal grins. "Join us," they beckoned, reaching out with translucent hands. Her past danced before her shadows of laughter, the warmth of family lost to the malevolence of the night. Long-buried fears clawed their way up, writhing with the same laughter that once echoed with joy. As she felt herself drawn in, a new resolve ignited. "You won, take me," she shouted. She launched herself toward the edge of the clearing, but the earth shifted, swallowing her feet into a mire of darkness. Struggling against the relentless grip, she spotted a small break in the mist beyond the lanterns. The figure of Tom, his silhouette just out of reach, called to her through the fog. "Tom, help me," she cried out, reaching for him, the shadows swirling around her. The laughter grew louder, drowning her voice, the darkness pushing her closer to despair. The blank faces of the children grinned wider as they whispered, "You can't escape, we're all here together." In that moment, Sarah made a choice. Mustering every ounce of strength, she lunged toward the light, but the fog thickened, blurring the path. As she felt the warmth slip through her fingers, a chilling thought struck her. Could she really escape the forest's grasp, or had she already become another lost soul in this terrible game? The shadows surged one last time, and with a final desperate cry, she vanished into the mist. What would she find on the other side, in the realm where the lost lingered? Sarah's scream echoed into the void, swallowed by the fog that wrapped around her body. Darkness enveloped her, and for a moment, she felt weightless, floating in an abyss that stretched on forever. Then, like a cruel joke, the ground jolted her back to reality as she landed hard on the cool, damp earth. Dazed, Sarah scrambled to her feet. The mist thinned for a heartbeat, revealing a landscape straight out of a nightmare. Faceless shadows lingered, their bodies contorted in unnatural ways. They hovered near, their breath a foul wind that carried whispers of despair. "Find him, join him," panic surged through her veins. "Tom," her voice cracked, desperation clawing at her throat. They may not have found him, but the realization that she could be losing him to this hellish place sent jolts of adrenaline coursing through her. She took off again, the desire to survive overpowering the suffocating fear suffusing her being. Dark shapes flickered at the edge of her vision. The clearing where she had stood moments before felt miles away. Shoving through the tangled underbrush, she realized the whispers had taken on a different tone, more sinister, more urgent. They demanded her attention, now filling her thoughts with images of her brother, trapped, alone. She burst into an open space, desperately scanning for some sign of him. The fog started to swirl, revealing ghastly figures amidst the trees. They beckoned her, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. She recoiled, recoiling as laughter curled around her, a chorus of haunting echoes pulling her closer. "You must stay, Sarah, you must join us." "No." The word came out in a furious scream. She was losing herself, falling into the clutches of the very shadows she had tried to escape. With every turn she took, her resolve weakened. One horror after another, faces of lost children, eyes wide with longing, twisted in eternal anguish. Sarah, save us, they cried, their voices laced with pain. You're just like us now. Suddenly, a sound jolted her, a rustling, a shout. Sarah, where are you? Tom. Hope ignited in her chest, fierce and defiant. Ignoring the whispers around her, she followed the sound. Slithering roots snatched at her feet, coils of dread tightening around her legs. But she fought against them with every ounce of her strength. I'm coming, she shouted, tears stinging her eyes as she forced her way through the undergrowth. Then, a chilling memory struck her like a slap. The night they played hide and seek, their favorite childhood game. But what if I don't want to be found? Tom had whispered, grinning as he curled behind the shed. Panic surged, gut-wrenching as the sinister laughter resonated around her. Stay with us forever. The shadows were closing in, fingers of darkness grazing her skin, pulling her back toward them. She could feel their coldness seep into her bones, a promise of eternal torment. No, Tom needs me. With a final push, Sarah sprinted through the trees, heart pounding in her throat. Every step felt like a battle, each breath a painful reminder of the darkness that wanted her. In a sudden clearing lit by soft, ghostly illumination, she saw him. Tom was standing there, his back to her, bathed in an eerie glow. Come here, she gasped, but as she edged closer, his body twisted unnaturally, and his head turned too fast. His eyes were hollow, void of recognition. Tom, join us, he whispered, a smile spreading across his face that was anything but warm. The forest around him sighed, shadows swaying eagerly, inviting her to join the twisted celebration. Sarah's heart raced, her mind screaming warnings. You're not Tom. The figure laughed then, a mix of her brother's voice and something else, something dark. It echoed through the trees, wrapping around her like a noose, suffocating her resolve. She glanced back, the shadows at her heels closing in quickly. Would she have to choose between saving her brother and saving herself? The air turned heavier, thick with desperation and doubt. Tom, she cried one last time, as the din of children's laughter twisted into chaos. She had to decide, stay or fight. In that moment of uncertainty and terror, she chose her path, knowing she might never return the same. But what if she didn't have to return at all? The ground trembled beneath her, the darkness swirling, and the chilling laughter pierced her heart like a knife. The laughter faded into a dreary silence, leaving Sarah breathless, her heart racing louder than the whispers. Shadows flickered along the tree trunks, shifting and swirling like smoke, thick with malice. She stood frozen, turmoil ravaging her mind. Was this truly Tom? Was he trapped among those haunting echoes? Or was he something else entirely spawned from the depth of this dark nightmare? Run! A voice inside her screamed. It wasn't her own. It was primal, instinctual, born from the core of her being. She turned and tore through the underbrush, branches clawing at her arms, while the ground itself seemed to shudder beneath her. The whispers escalated, a cacophony of agonized cries overlapping, drowning out her thoughts. Join us forever, you're just like us now. The haunting chants intensified, becoming entwined with thoughts of her brother. Images of his laughter flashed in her mind, juxtaposed with that twisted grin she'd seen moments before. Had she really found him, or was she barreling deeper into the clutches of despair? Dread pooled in her stomach as she scrambled through the dense thicket, slipping on damp leaves and moss. Her pulse quickened with every guttural sound rippling from the dark. She couldn't let them take her. Not like this. Not without a fight. Suddenly, she stumbled into a dry patch of ground, starkly contrasting with the surrounding gloom. There, half buried in the earth, lay a wooden toy, a faded, limping horse, its mane chewed and splintered. A chill washed over her as her fingers brushed against the toy. It was Thomas. Memories came flooding back in a rush, a summer day, laughter, and a promise to protect each other. How had this ended up here? Where are you? She whispered desperately, eyes darting around as if daring the shadows to reveal themselves. What do you want? But the fog thickened, devouring her voice. The temperature dropped, and a heavy fog crept in, suffocating and oppressive. Her breath came in shallow gasps, an icy mist swirling at the edges of her vision. She fought against the creeping terror, desperation morphing into anger. "Stop it! Leave me alone!" Then, like a cruel twist of fate, the shadows flickered again, and she saw them faces merging from the darkness. Their features twisted in agony, mouths stretched in silent screams. They were children, once so full of life, now lost in this stifling void. They grabbed at her, fingers reaching out, wanting her to join their forlorn parade into oblivion. "No, I want tea," she screamed, shaking her head fiercely, certain she could not succumb to this nightmare. But the children's eyes glimmered with something hope or darkness. She wasn't sure anymore. Stumbling back, she nearly fell into a pool of thick, clotted darkness that rippled like water. The whispers shifted, more pleading now. "Save us, please save yourselves." Why? She choked back tears, the weight of their despair pressing on her chest. "Why are you still here?" As if in answer, shadows swirled around her, their forms entwining to create a grotesque visage that resembled her brother once more. "Tom," it was a whisper, soft yet chilling, echoing around the clearing. The being stepped closer, the same twisted smile ghosting across its features. "Join us." Fear gripped her heart, and with that, she turned and ran blindly into the woods, adrenaline forcing her limbs forward. The whispers crescendoed into a symphony of terror behind her, the shadows blurring, stirring into chaos. As she rushed deeper into the forest, branches snarled at her, like fingers trying to pull her back into the depths. In her desperate flight, Sarah lost her bearings, but she pressed on, fueled solely by the resolve to escape the grasp of darkness. "Wait, you can't leave," came the cries of the children, laced with urgency and regret. She stumbled into another clearing, heart shooting into her throat. And there it was, a flickering light, perhaps hope, or perhaps another cruel illusion. With a burst of energy, she dashed toward it, praying fervently it was not a trick. But just as she reached out, a tendril of shadow latched onto her ankle, yanking her back with bone-crushing force. The ground beneath shifted inexplicably, valleys of despair amplifying around her. "Sarah!" A voice thundered, but it wasn't Thomas. The shadows danced, revealing the most haunting sight yet. A ghostly mirror reflecting her own terrified face, eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. She was running out of time. The weight of unseen arms closed in around her, nearly suffocating. What if she couldn't break free? As the darkness threatened to swallow her whole, that flickering light winked out. A scream, a warning, lingered in the stillness, a chance for salvation slipping through her fingers, beckoning her to make a choice that could change everything. Would she succumb to the shadows, or find a way back to the light? In that moment of decision, the chilling laughter circled back, shrill and promising doom. And from the depths emerged a voice, deep and serpentine, whispering a single word before everything went dark again. "Choose." As the blackness enveloped her, Sarah felt time stretch, each second a lifetime. Suddenly, light flickered back, illuminating a monstrous tableau around her. Shadows writhed, faces contorted, and the whispers surged again like a tidal wave. "Choose," they chanted, a ghostly chorus echoing in her mind, a sinister mix of temptation and threat. The figures hung in the air like puppets on strings. Each one was a memory, a piece of her, twisted and grotesque. Faces of children, her brother's laugh interwoven with their anguish. "You were better off with us, Sarah," they implored, their haunting voices clawing at her sanity. "We can show you the way. Make it easy, join us." She gasped as if surfacing from drowning. Panic flared inside her, a visceral urge to confront the shadows, to leap from the precipice of despair back into life. "Shut up," she screamed, hurling every ounce of defiance into her words. Her heart pounded in her chest, a relentless drum driving her forward. "I am not like you." But the darkness thickened, each inhalation drawing the cold deeper into her lungs. Her legs, heavy as chains, urged her to fall. Yet, a flicker of that fading light pulsed somewhere deep within the choking blackness. Hope, or just another cruel trick? Run faster. The voice within her insisted again, louder this time, blurring the line between her thoughts and the whispering shadows. She harnessed the power within, leaping forward, each step a battle against the shadows' clutches. The path twisted and turned, disorienting her sense of direction as branches snapped and clawed at her, howling with anger. Suddenly, Sarah felt herself tumbling down, the ground giving way beneath her, plunging into a pit of darkness. She landed with a thud, pain shooting through her limbs, breath stolen by the rush of the fall. The whispers roared louder now, echoing up into the void above. You deserve this. You cannot escape what you are. Brushing dirt from her face, Sarah glanced around the small space, dimly lit by irregular flickers of pale light. It was not just a pit, but a twisted chamber, walls lined with disturbing etchings. They depicted children, mouths agape in silent screams, eyes wide with terror. Each image was a plea, a story of despair locked in time. Help us floated from an unseen source, each word laced with agony. Understand us. Grappling with the horror, Sarah felt sick. Their suffering shut off the breaths from her chest. What do you want from me? She cried into the darkness, fiercely demanding answers. Release us, came a voice less hollow than the others, softer, almost familiar. No, no more of this. In a flash of instinct, she pressed her palms against the cold earth beneath her, desperation morphing into rage. I will not serve your darkness. The shadows quaked, recoiling from her defiance. They twisted and curled, revealing the paths of human sorrow that encased them. The room pulsated, each heartbeat syncing with her own, a dance of despair fighting against the flickers of life. Suddenly, a form emerged from the corners of the chamber, a faded outline shrouded in mist. Sarah, its voice sent icy tendrils of dread through her. It was a familiar voice, the essence of warmth wrapped in coldness. Help me. It took a step closer and she recognized his shape. Tom, her heart surged, a dizzying mix of hope and horror. Was he truly here, trapped with her? Or was this another cruel illusion? Help me escape, he whispered again, and in that moment, something deep within her shifted. The choice was before her: face the darkness and fight for both of their lives, or risk letting him perish amidst it all. But just when she opened her mouth to respond, the ground trembled violently. A shattering crack echoed throughout the chamber, and the walls bent inward, squeezing her against the weight of the shadows that coiled around her. The tortured cries rising in a crescendo. Choose, hissed the shadows in a chorus, and the grip tightened. How deep did this nightmare go? The chamber warped and spun, an unending cycle of pleading faces blurring together, her brother's voice fading among them. What would she sacrifice for him? As the darkness lunged for her, Sarah felt the full weight of the choice looming before her. Something she would have to embrace soon or be consumed by the shadows. And the question hung heavily in the air, thundering in her mind. What was she willing to become in order to save the one she loved? The ground convulsed around Sarah, the echo of cracking stone a relentless reminder of the looming dread. Panic surged up her throat, tightening like a noose. Shadows coiled and writhed, a living darkness that swallowed all sense of hope. Tom's south voice, so close, yet so far, pulled her gaze away from the encroaching chaos. Sarah, he urged, desperate. You have to choose now. Choose what? She gasped, fighting against the weight pressing down on her. Sweat trickled down her forehead, stinging her eyes. You're just a shadow. You can't be real. The shadows shrieked in response, a cacophony of lost souls spiraling through the air. Each howl resonated with despair, each moan a warning of the terrible price of her hesitation. They were all around her now, suffocating her with their presence. Join us, Sarah. Let go of the pain. In that chaotic moment, she felt the warmth of Tom's lingering essence. It tugged at her heart like a locket yanked from a chain. But lurking under that warmth was an insidious chill. Would saving him mean she'd become one with the darkness too? Stay away from me, she yelled, rallying against the shadows that reached for her. I want to become like you. With renewed strength, she propelled herself toward Tom, the only beacon of light in this malevolent chamber. The shadows hissed and recoiled, the sound chilling her bones. She couldn't let their whispers entrap her. There had to be a way out, a way to save them both. Tom, if you're really in there, fight. Remember who you are, she screamed, clenching her fists, willing her heart to beat louder than the despair swirling around them. Help me, he cried, his form faltering, flickering like a faulty bulb. You can break the curse. The whispers grew frantic, like a tempest rising. Don't believe him. He'll only lead you into darkness. Sarah hesitated. The air thickened, confusion crashing over her like tidal waves. What curse? She shouted, the question ripping from her. What do I need to do? Embrace me. Tom's voice broke through the chaos, weaker now yet threaded with desperation. Only together can we shatter this prison. She felt the cold tendrils of shadows inching closer, their breath icy against her skin. Panic clawed at her insides. Could she trust him? Or was he just another trick among the many twisted silhouettes surrounding her? Tom, you have to show me the way. Her voice cracked, raw with fear. Every instinct told her to run, but her brother's image flickered with undeniable familiarity. The walls trembled, each shiver sending shards of dust spiraling down around her. Time is short, Tom urged, reforming from the depths of the gloom, his face twisted in ethereal anguish. Suddenly, she felt a tug at her heart, a gnawing sensation that spoke to every insecurity she'd ever harbored. What if she failed him? What if her choice meant losing him forever, both to the shadows and the weight of dark destiny that whispered her name? Choose the light, the echoes urged from the blackness, momentarily startling her. Don't succumb to their darkness. Resist. As confusion multiplied, she glanced toward each pleading face, searching for clarity. But with each flicker, insanity threatened to take hold. Sarah. Tom's voice broke through, sharp and clear. Fight. I'm not lost. We can be free. One deep breath. One last chance. She charged forward, fear fueling her. But the ground beneath her shivered like a beast in agony. Choose. The shadows shrieked, and in a whirlwind of horrors, Sarah felt a tremor beneath her feet. Cracks spiderwebbed across the chamber floor, splitting apart, revealing a swirling chasm of darkness below. The abyss beckoned, pulsing with a voice that promised salvation or destruction. Could she plunge into that void, with Tom desperately reaching for her, trusting that together they could seal the night? The darkness lunged, its grasp ready to engulf her whole. With a final scream, Sarah faced the choice before her, but it wasn't a choice at all. The scream echoed back, reverberating against the walls of despair, before the ground fell away. What awaited her in the darkness below, and could Tom truly guide her back from this? The choice was only the beginning. Sarah fell into the abyss, her heart racing faster than the breath escaping her. The darkness wrapped around her like a thick fog, suffocating yet familiar. Images flashed through her mind, her childhood with Tom, laughter shared on sunlit days, suddenly overshadowed by moments of despair unraveling around her. Sarah, please. Tom's voice broke through the silence, urgency lacing each desperate word. It's not just about us. You have to set us all free. The darkness pulsed around her, and Sarah's instincts screamed to fight. She couldn't lose him again. Not like this. She felt the weight of countless souls pressing against her, a collective loneliness woven into the fabric of the void. They all hungered for freedom, freedom she now understood could only be granted by her choice. Tom, she shouted into the murky veil, searching for his face within the swirl of memories and regrets. I'm here. I'll fight. Just tell me what to do. Hope surged inside her, vibrant and strong, battling the oppressive darkness that sought to swallow her whole. Remember our past, he urged, his presence flickering just beyond her reach. The light will guide you, but you have to believe you can rise above the shadows. It's not just about escaping. It's about confronting darkness with love and truth. Suddenly, a flicker of warmth bloomed in her chest. The darkness recoiled slightly, as if it were alive, jolted by a sense of determination. A bright seed of power blossomed, urging her to rise. Taking a deep breath, she steeled her resolve. "You don't have control over me," she cried, her voice echoing against the walls of despair. She concentrated, feeling the flickering light pulsating within her. It grew, flooding her soul with vibrant energy, and for the first time, she felt strong. Together, Tom's voice reverberated with a sense of history and power. "We can cleanse this forest. You're not just my sister, you're the beacon they need. You are the light that can break this cycle." The shadows surged, angry and desperate to cling to her. "You can't fight what you are. You belong to us," they shrieked, swirling closer, tendrils grasping at her limbs, devious fingers of despair seeking to pull her back into the void. But Sarah only pressed forward, wielding all her memories, the joy, the laughter, and the love. She pushed against the dark tide, feeling her pulse quicken as the warmth within her manifested into a brilliant light, radiating with relentless power. "I choose love," she shouted. Then, with everything she had, she leaped into the heart of darkness. A blinding flash lit up the abyss, a flash fierce enough to part the shadows. Every tendril and whisper hissed as the light clashed against them, cuts of brightness slicing through the dark as if breaking a spell. Freedom sprayed like confetti, sending echoes of laughter and cheers rising through the suffocating atmosphere. Around her, the lost souls began to shimmer awake, their faces twisting from anguish to realization. They reached out, grasping the light that surged through Sarah. "You're breaking the curse," they echoed in unison, voices threading a chorus of liberation. "I'm not alone," she whispered, her heart buoyed by unity. Tom stepped forward, radiating a halo of light brighter than the rest. "We're together always," he promised before extending his hand to her. She grasped it tightly, and he pulled her deeper into the light. The brilliance exploded around them, brighter than the darkest night, transforming into a swirling vortex of colors, a dimension where lost souls found their path to peace. Before their eyes, the forest around them began to dissolve, the gnarled trees melting into soft hues of dawn. Whispers of forgotten children morphed into joyous laughter as they ran toward dawn, freed at last from the grip of malevolence. As the light enveloped them, Sarah felt lightness in her heart, the chains of the past shattered, triumph filling every corner of her being. She and Tom stood hand in hand, moving toward the unknown future, brierless and unbound. Together forever, she vowed, leaving the shadows behind as they stepped into the embrace of sunlight, a promise of new beginnings where darkness dared not tread. As the sun spilled golden rays into the sky, they finally emerged from the depths, transforming the dreadful night into a morning filled with hope. The woods, no longer a prison, sang songs of renewal, breathing life into the air. And just like that, Sarah and Tom had forged a path, not just for their own escape, but for all those lost in the dens of despair. Here, they would rebuild the love that would withstand even the darkest storms. Fingers intertwined, they walked away from the shadows toward the horizon, alive, free, and ready to explore the world shining brightly before them. Now, this is the moment for you to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Your support means everything.